Hey everybody, happy Monday. So welcome to episode 1 of From Pharma to Farm. And I was gonna do this as a free group, like a private group, and I decided, you know what the heck, I'm just gonna do it live on this page. So in case people are shy or it needs to be shared, you guys have that option. So I'm gonna do this for the next, I think it was 5 or 6 episodes, and I'm really excited to share a lot of this with you guys. Hi, William. So for those of you that are new to my page or don't know me, my name is Shay Stanford, and I want to share some of why I'm even doing this, why this is even important to me, why this message matters. So I'm going to share a quick little story. If you don't care about the story, you can fast forward this if you're watching the recording. So I was one of those people that, like many of us, just was, when I was focusing on weight loss, I was focused on just the calories. I was really not paying attention ever to the quality of food I was putting in my body, where it came from. You know, it's just all about the calories. And I really didn't question anything. And honestly, I've tried every single diet out there. You name it, I've tried it over the last 45 years of my life. So, but the turning point for me was when I was 38 years old, and I'm gonna make this is a really short version, but it's important for you guys to know. When I was 38 years old, I had my son the year before, and I was really having a hard time losing the baby weight. Maybe because I was older, just whatever. Having a really hard time. So I was exercising an hour or 2 a day, eating right, and I'm like, man, this weight's not coming off. So a friend of mine at the gym said, hey, why don't you try some HCG shots? You'll lose like a pound a day. If you do it for 30 days, you'll get all the weight off, so on and so forth. It's natural, it's safe. Doctor prescribes it, so on and so forth. And I'll get into the whole doctor thing tomorrow. But so I did. You put these shots in you. HCG is a natural hormone that's made in pregnant women. The whole purpose of it is so that you don't break down your protein while you're eating literally like 500 to 800 calories a day. Anyway, so I did that for about 12 days. And my hormones were through the roof. Like, I was a rip-roaring bitch. And my husband said, you know what, you got to get off these because I can't stand living with you. If you're going to continue these for the next, end of the month to finish your 30 days, I'm going to go live somewhere else. And so I begrudgingly stopped, which in hindsight was great. And on day 12, and I'd lost 12 pounds. And literally within a day or two, I gained all 12 pounds back, which of course I blamed on him. That was his fault. And so that was that, and I didn't do them anymore. Well, I had a mammogram prior. I don't remember, it was when I got my implants or whatever. I had a mammogram because I wasn't really due for mammograms, but for whatever reason, thank goodness, I had a mammogram. Then I had a second mammogram 6 months after I did these HCG shots, and I had a quarter-size tumor deep within my right breast. And I remember when the doctor's office called me back. Now, at the time I have a son who's a year old. Life is good. Life is really good. And I remember the nurse calling me and says, you have something suspicious. You need to come in and have it looked at. Long story short, I had to be biopsied. I had to have surgery to have it biopsied. It was about the size of a quarter, and then it was sent off for 2 weeks to have it tested to find out if it was cancerous or not. And I'll tell you, those 2 weeks were really freaking long. And my whole world going through my eyes thinking, here I am, I'm only in my late 30s. Am I gonna have to fight breast cancer? I have a new baby. I've got 2 amazing daughters, a husband. Like, life is freaking good. I felt like I was being punished. And so in those 2 weeks, I did what probably a lot of people do, is we try to get control somehow. So I started researching, how could this happen? I don't have breast cancer that runs in my family and all of this. Never once initially looked at the food I was eating or what I was putting in my body, anything like that. That eventually led there. I came across, and it was somebody that said, had you looked at those HCG shots you did? Well, because of my pharmaceutical background, I started looking into the clinical research behind HCG, and I realized it wasn't HCG from humans, it was HCG from pregnant horses. So it's a really high concentrated dose, way higher than any human should ever have in their body. And then I started looking at some of the clinical trials and how they were, what they do is it increases your estrogen levels to really high amounts. And they're, in monkeys, they had shown to have higher incidences of breast and ovarian cancer, any of the female cancers. And there I had it. Now, do I have proof that it was the HCG? No. But everything that I had read then at that point before my eyes, I was like pretty mad at myself that here I am, I probably could have caused my own freaking disease. Like I could have cost my own life for vanity to all to be thin and never once even looked at what it is, what it could do to my body, how my body would react to it or anything like that. And which started having me research other things. And that was the biggest aha moment of my life. And I remember one day I sat down with Neil and and thank God he got me off of that at day 12. I didn't go the full 30 days. And I said, I kind of had this, with Neil and with God, I prayed and I said, please just let me get through this. And it will become my mission to teach people what I wish I had had that voice speaking to me, to teach people that how to be healthy, what we're putting in our body, how it causes and how our body reacts to certain things, which I'm going to get to for the lesson in this video. But that was my aha. That became then my life mission, was to educate and teach and inform everybody that wants to hear how what we're putting in our body affects us and it can affect our health. And I will say that the tumor, it came back benign. And that was it. That was it for me. Like, it was go time. Like, I felt like I had work to do in this world with everybody that I could touch that would stop long enough to listen to me. I got certified in holistic nutrition, and that's kind of been the route I took. Now I'm a distributor for Beachbody. And when they talked to me, obviously the fitness programs are amazing, but when they put the nutrition line in front of me, you bet your ass, I researched it immensely. And a lot of the ingredients in the superfood shake were ones that I had now learned are amazing for healing certain things. And I've learned the power of food and healing diseases. And so that's what I want this whole episode to be about, because probably many of you, actually, I would love to see some hearts or likes. If you are the kind of person that grew up like me, I ate Lender's Bagels, I ate Burger King, I ate pizza, I ate Swanson TV dinners because TV dinners were cool and hip in the 70s. I never thought about like what was in my food. I ate so many processed things, and now in my 40s, it's kind of all residually caught up with me. And fortunately, I'm stubborn and educated, and I am doing a lot of the work to figure things out. But I feel like I've kind of been blessed to be able to teach a lot of what I've learned to you all, to my audience. It's been I think all part of the bigger purpose for me. So because a lot of what we have started eating as kids has totally affected the health that we have now. The third component to why this whole group and this whole page, this whole mission is important to me is I did pharmaceutical sales for 10 years. And from a career standpoint, my number one product was a diabetes medication. And my number two product was anxiety and depression medication. And specifically with diabetes, I saw firsthand how much it affected people's quality of life. And if you've known anybody with end-stage diabetes and they have kidney failure, they've got amputations, they're blind, they're on 12 to 15 different medications. It's a really horrid disease. And what pisses me off the most about it is it's preventable. It's like, this is type 2 diabetes, but it's a food-related disease. It's a lifestyle-related disease. And so much of the disease, I remember sitting in these doctors' offices, looking at the eyes of these patients on, just thinking, this sucks. Like, all I have in my bag are medicines that are going to treat the symptoms. Nothing in my bag is actually helping this person reverse this disease. And if I had gotten a hold of that person 10 years ago, the impact I could have made on that husband's life, and even the wife who's got to look after him, that's what I want to do. I want to get a hold of these people before. I want to be on the front end of prevention and not on the back end pushing pills after the damage has been done. And so I feel like these different pieces of my life have come together, and now with social media platform is the best way for me to share and educate all of you, to empower you into better health. So this group, these lives I'm gonna do, let me tell you who they're for. They're for the people that are on a lot of medications. They're for the people who maybe have been on medications or have had a story like mine, and you're starting to realize, wow, I don't want to be tethered and chained to medications because I'm sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, and I'm tired of wasting money on all these medications. I want to go do other things. I want to have more energy. I don't want to be feeling all these side effects that I have. And so I am in no means a purist. I eat out at restaurants. I drink wine. I don't wear organic makeup. Definitely not a pure. I can share and teach with you guys that will have you reducing your medications and having you feel so much better. I promise you. And I've picked the 4 biggest things that I feel kind of come across in today's society: diabetes, anxiety, depression, ADHD, as well as gut health. So those are the 4 topics I'll be covering this week. All right, so that's who this group is for. You know, if I realize that there is absolutely a place for medications, I get that, but in a lot of circumstances, honestly, I don't feel like it can be a first line. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a first line thing. In a lot of ways, if we're changing and eliminating certain things in our diet, you'd be surprised. Okay, so let me get to the first bit of this. All right, so how drugs work. And this is just gonna be a 2-part thing on how drugs work. It's probably gonna take about 6 or 7 minutes. So, all right. So the first thing is, I used to think before doing pharmaceutical sales, you would take a drug and a drug does something to your body. And that's not the case. So think of, say, sunshine. Sunshine can provide us vitamin D. It can provide us, it can help with seasonal depression. There's a lot of great benefits to, sorry, I keep getting notifications. There's a lot of great benefits to sunshine. But the way drugs work, and I'm using sunshine as an easy example because we all have it, is drugs create and cause a facilitated reaction. They go into our body, and our body has a reaction to something that the drug is doing in our body. So all we have is a reaction. The drugs aren't actually making the change. It's the way our body accommodates or reacts to that compound. So like sunshine, we can get the vitamin D, we can get all the positive things. We also can have darker skin. So to some people, the darker skin is appealing, and that could be a benefit to sunshine. To other people, that's a side effect. It is all relative to the person and what they're looking for. So every drug is going to elicit some type of reaction in our body as well. Some are going to be positive, which is why we're taking the drug, whether it's lowering cholesterol, whether it's, lifting depression, or it could have what we call side effects, which are that long list that we hear about every time we hear a drug commercial. Side effects. Now, in some cases, when drugs have been invented or going through creation, what it was originally intended for, like in the case of Viagra, the side effect ends up being a benefit. So then they change the whole marketing of the drug. So as long as, the main point I want to make is anything that you're exposing your body to, not even necessarily drugs wise, your body is reacting to it. So it's either a positive or negative reaction based on what your body is being exposed to. So all the drug is really a stimulus, okay? Now, what is important, especially when you're on a lot of medications, is your liver is the role of your liver. Your liver it does a lot of things, but when it comes to drugs, it is a metabolizer. So imagine a highway, a toll road specifically. We've all been through toll roads, right? And you've got, say, like the fast pass lane where you pay extra and you can just go right through, no problem. And then you've got other lanes that always seem to be backed up. I want you to picture your liver in this way, because this is what happens when you take medications or anything that is a stimulus in your body. Your liver has these different pathways that break down the drugs. And so some drugs can be inhibitors, which means they push other drugs through faster. They stop other drugs. I'm getting it backwards. They stop other drugs. It's almost like they cause a congestion. And then some are inducers, which pushes the drugs through faster, okay? So you take a drug, and a drug can either be an inhibitor or an inducer. So I used to think we just took drugs and that was it. It goes through these different pathways the way the drug is designed, and this is going to be important in a minute. So imagine, so the most common pathway is one that's called the 3A4 pathway. Most drugs go through that pathway. Then there's very rare pathways, like the 2D6 is a very rare pathway. So you ideally want the drugs that you're taking to go through those more rare pathways so that they're not getting all jam-packed in that 3A4 pathway where all the other ones are competing to get through that lane, and then they're getting built up. Now, if a drug goes through that 3A4 pathway, it's designed to go through that 3A4 pathway, and it also happens to be an inhibitor. So you can look at the drug and you can say, oh, it's a 3A4 inhibitor. This is why the pharmacy has you bring the little bag and the doctor's office has you bring your bag of drugs, to make sure they're not having all these interactions in your liver on this highway in your liver. So if you've got 3 or 4 drugs that are 3A4 inhibitors, you're going to have this big congestion going on in your liver. And what that means is when there's a congestion, there's a buildup. So now that dose, that original dose you were taking starts to go higher because it's building up and building up, because it's a traffic jam, kind of like the carbon monoxide from the cars. It's building up. So you end up getting more of a dose than you originally thought. And if you're on a lot of medications, like a diabetic, say, could be, same kind of thing. I don't know if you've ever heard, like with grapefruit, goes through the 3A4. It's a 3A4 inhibitor, which is why they say don't drink grapefruit juice. I don't know if you ever wondered, but that's why, because grapefruit juice is a 3A4 inhibitor. So it can cause that backup if you're on a lot of other medications. Now, the drug that I sold for, that was an antidepressant, went through the 2D6. And that was a big selling point that I used for physicians, because I said, why would you prescribe this particular agent when it's a 3A4 inhibitor and risk drug interactions when you can prescribe one that kind of just takes the fast pass right through and doesn't interact with anything? See, it's important. Now, if you have an inducer, you're going to get less of a dose potentially than what you had thought. And in a case of like a stroke medication, for a heart medication or something like that, now you're getting less of a dose because it's pushing through faster, because that drug's an inducer. So this is really important, especially when it comes to side effects. You have more side effects if you're taking drugs that get caught up in this 3A4 pathway. If you're on a lot of medications, if you're taking medications, now remind you, like food reacts in these pathways as well. And so it's scary when people are taking medications without a prescription, taking medications from friends, taking medications in general that aren't prescribed and kind of gone through the process, because that's the whole purpose of the pharmacist, is to make sure that you have least amount of drug interactions as possible. So one of the main things is, if you can reduce the amount of drugs you're taking, you're going to reduce the drug interactions. You're going to reduce your side effects. There's so many other things that you're going to be able to reduce when you're reducing those drugs. And remember when I was saying how we all have a reaction, the drug is just the stimulus. So that reaction can be intensified or lessened based on how the drugs you're taking are metabolized in your liver. So reducing the drugs, not taking drugs that aren't prescribed to you specifically, you know, ones from friends, things like that, antibiotics. All of those kinds of things are really important that a lot of people don't think about, and it's really scary when you think about teenagers sharing and doing drugs, both over-the-counter drugs, things that you may have just bought at CVS. This isn't necessarily prescription drugs, and over-the-counter drugs are really scary if you think about, because there's no pharmacist screening what pathways of drugs you're taking and what can happen in your liver. Then you think you add on alcohol and caffeine and all these other things in your body. So I wanted to share with you guys how drugs work, because as we move forward, these notifications, it's really important on how these drugs work, because obviously the more you're taking, you're increasing those chances of interactions and side effects, and maybe not getting the full effect of the drug if it is an inducer and things like that. So I was one of those people, I just thought you took a drug and it made your body do something. And it was pretty fascinating to understand that drugs are designed to go through certain pathways, and you can get more or less of a drug, and that's going to affect your side effects. That's going to affect a lot of things. And so anyway, and then of course there's a lot of lifestyle variables that can play into that, like I was saying, with the drinking and borrowing drugs and things like that. And over-the-counter, again, is one of the biggest things, because everything is a stimulant and affects how our body can react. It's not just necessarily a prescription drug. Again, even like grapefruit juice. Okay, so that wraps up episode 1. I would love to hear some feedback from you guys. Again, I am looking for and hoping to inspire the people that really want to learn and empower their own health, learn about their health, and really try and reduce the amount of medications that they're on, the amount of money they're spending on medications, and have more energy through natural choices, lifestyle, and things that will going to have your body move more towards health and away from disease. So that wraps up episode 1. I'm going to be back tomorrow, and I'm going to be here for episode 2, talking about the FDA, the food industry, and doctors, and how all those roles interchange with one another on what ends up coming, and Congress, to your grocery store. So anyway, that wraps up episode 1. I will see you guys back here tomorrow, and I would love to hear some comments by posting below, and feel free to share this video with anybody you feel it would be helpful with. All right, take care, guys.